What's going on, guys? Welcome to the live stream. I appreciate you guys stopping in. If you're having any difficulties with audio, video, let me know. Sometimes things get a little wonky up in here. We're going to get right to it. We're going to get right down to it. A lot of people have been asking about this, and there is a lot of YouTubers that won't touch it. I guess it's controversial, and they're afraid to talk about this. Me, personally, I fear nothing except fear itself, and I have no hesitation whatsoever to touch base on this subject. I'm going to get into the facts. We're going to dive in. We're going to talk about this kind of stuff, but I want to make it very clear on a couple of things. Very crystal clear before we even dive in. Number one, I am not an EPA or government employee and law / automotive legislation expert. But what I will tell you is that 20 years in racing, I know how shit goes and I know exactly what they're trying to do. And I'm going to talk about the things that I know and some of the things I don't know, but have a good feeling of where the direction is going and possibly could know the truth on. But we're going to touch base on the facts first. I appreciate everybody stopping in. What's up, Michael, Daniel, Hamp, Patrick, Big Truck, Dwayne, Cars, and Bars. Okay. This is what we're talking about. First off, the Clean Air Act. Let's just touch base on this because I'm going to tell you exactly what I think's going on here. Number one, big conglomerate oil companies have pretty much controlled the government and pretty much control the country. That's just a reality. Pharmaceutical companies and petroleum companies, they own the world. They do, because without them, we'd have nothing. If you took away all fossil fuels 10 years ago, 15 years ago, we'd all die, pretty much, or go back to caveman era, whatever. The problem here is that the government obviously doesn't like being controlled. And I'm not exactly to which degree this control goes or how it works, but I will tell you, if you've ever heard of Chase Bank, well, that is old money. Chase Bank is owned or is whatever, JP Morgan and Chase. JP Morgan is old money. JP Morgan Company struck oil 200 years ago and is pretty much one of the core fundamentals of the stock market and everything that we are. It's old money. It goes deeper than the government. And it's people, individuals, companies, conglomerates like that, big oil, that have pretty much controlled emissions, eliminated emissions, or postponed emissions, blah, 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 blah. The problem is you got the oil companies pushing to keep gasoline, and you've got the electric car companies following EPA trying to push electric. The problem is that electric is not selling like they want it to. So now they're reaching. Well, what does this mean? Well, I'm going to tell you what it means. This is what they're trying to do. This is a fact. This is what they are trying to do. Now, I'm not saying it's going to happen at all. Not saying it will. Highly likely it will, but not for sure. But this is what they want. They want it to be illegal to modify a vehicle to race at a drag strip. You heard that right. Illegal to race at a drag strip. They say that they're not trying to come after drag racing, that their only intention is to go after cars that are driving on the street. That's a bullshit lie. They are twisting their words. They're going back on what they said. They're adapting legislation. They're rewriting legislation. Their verbatim editorial chief of staff is, or whoever the hell he is rewriting things they've already written. They're removing and deleting things that they're getting caught in. And all in all, what they're doing is foot in mouth makes it impossible to dance around this. Because the EPA has got their foot down their own fucking throats. What they want is to take your ability to race away. Period. It's not even up for debate. That's what they're trying to do. And they got their foots in their fucking mouth. So far, they're pretty much shitting it out. And they're trying to rewrite everything they write, reinterpret. We're talking about the EPA interpreting legislation and legislative law to whatever degree they want. There is no room for interpretation. A law is a law. There is no law stopping us for modifying a street vehicle into a race vehicle except the EPA's interpretation of legal law. Let me explain what that means, if you don't already know. It is illegal to not have a catalytic converter on your car driving around on the street. However, it is not illegal to remove your catalytic converter and be racing around a road course or race up and down a drag strip. The RPM Act of 2015, generally, this is not verbatim, so don't, EPA police me here, or RPM Act police me, whatever. But it states that you can modify, a vehicle could be modified for race use if it wasn't intended for race use, meaning you could buy a car at a dealership, strip the emissions, and race it at a drag strip. It's legal to have, it states that you can have a road legal vehicle racing on a drag strip, even if it's not meeting the criteria to be on the street. But the problem is, the RPM Act doesn't state which path or the journey in which you get from point A to point B. Point A being street legal, point B being street illegal, but for the, the drag strip or racing, off-road racing. The government and the RPM Act and legislation has stated that you can take street legal vehicle and it can be illegal if you're racing it off-road. That's fine. But there's nothing about how you get there, which means the EPA is overstepping and reaching and saying that, no, you cannot modify this car and take it off-road. They're basically telling you you cannot race your GT500 on a drag strip without catalytic converters, even if it never drives on the road again. It's illegal because it came with a catalytic converter, so you can never remove it no matter what. That's bullshit, okay? That is straight fucking bullshit. Nice try, EPA. Very nice try overstepping that interpretation. The RPM Act of 2015 states that we can do such things. It just doesn't clearly outline the path, which is where EPA is trying to intervene. The problem here is there is no path from A to B. Somehow, lost in translation is the legislation of the RPM Act, and it needs to be addressed. And another issue here, unfortunately, this issue has not been abated yet and probably will never abate, ever. That is a problem for this. It's a very serious problem. So if you enjoy cars, they are going to take away your ability to race cars. The days of us buying a car and removing the cats and getting a tune, they're almost over. At the rate that we're going right now, it could literally be this year that you never can buy a car again and tune it. Like, I mean, ever. That's the direction we're going. Now, the Supreme Court allows EPA to overrule states. That may be correct, but they cannot overrule the federal government, which is a legislative bill that the RPM Act is. Problem is, it did not go through. Let me read something to you. I'm going to read this, and you guys are going to follow along here, because I really think this is important. Okay. Let's go down here. EPA is proposing 40 CFR, okay, to clarify that the Clean Air Act does not allow any person to disable, remove, or render inoperative or tamper emission control certified vehicles for the purpose of competition. That's a very big problem. What that means is that you will now have to buy a drag race car from manufacturers, or you'll have to pay penalties, fines, who knows, God knows what else. 90% of people going to the drag strip today are going in their personal cars. They won't be able to go anymore. Drag strips will go out of business. Performance parts manufacturers will defunct and go bankrupt. Automotive manufacturers will cease to be able to sell high-performance gasoline cars. And what is the result of all this? Electric vehicles will sell more, which is exactly what they're trying to do. They're trying to force us to buy something we don't want to buy, thus rendering our freedom almost completely irrelevant at this point. The proposal included a clarification related to vehicles used for competition to ensure that the Clean Air Act requirements are followed for vehicles used on public roads. This is a bunch of nonsense. This clarification is not being finalized. EPA Motorsports supports motorsports and its contributions to the American economy and communities across the country. I call fucking bullshit on that. I don't care. Bullshit. Period. Let's continue. They're a bunch of fucking liars. Anyway, EPA's focus is not, nor has it been, on vehicles built or used exclusively for racing, but on companies that violate the rules by making, selling products that disable pollution controls of motor vehicles used on public roads. Well, no shit, Sherlock. You can't go after a vehicle that's designed for racing because most people, if not all people, can't even afford it nor get their hands on it. So what they're basically saying is rich people and professional drag racers who can afford the limited production and expense of these cars are untouchable. But 99.9999999% of the world is now at risk of losing their dream of being able to race. So what you're saying is you're basically eliminating racing because they only made 600 dragsters from Dodge in the last year or two. So only 600 people can race in the world. Come on, let's get realistic here. EPA is full of shit. Full of shit. Period. They're a bunch of fucking liars. Anyway, EPA will continue to engage with the racing industry. Bullshit. And others in its support for racing. Bullshit again. While maintaining the agency's focus where it's always been, reducing pollution from these cars and trucks that travel along America's roadway and throughways and our neighborhoods. Bullshit. I don't buy it. Lies. Any case. We're not talking about the administrations. We're not turning this into a which political party is better. We all know that the political party in office right now is donkey trash. In any case, we're going to start here. Mobile sources are significant contributors to air pollution, the agency explained. Well, no shit. I mean, like, even a child would know this. The EPA, through its direct implementation authority, can play a critical role in addressing these important pollutant sources. Title II of the Clean Air Act authorizes EPA to set standards applicable to emissions for a variety of vehicles and engines. Guys, vehicles today produce very low emissions. Very, 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 very low emissions. Very low. It would take 100 years of driving the vehicles we drive today to really make any difference. I mean, what about the nuclear power plants in New Jersey? What about nuclear power in general? What about other things in this world that are potently dangerous to the world and the environments that we live in that are far superior in destructive mannerisms than an automobile with 3 catalytic converters or running on E85? This is bullshit. Anyway, the CAA prohibits tampering with emissions controls as well as manufacturing, selling, and installing aftermarket devices intended to defeat those controls. EPA has found numerous companies and individuals that have manufactured and sold both hardware and software specifically to defeat these required emissions controls on vehicles and engines used on public roads, as well as non-road vehicles and engines. Illegally modified vehicles and engines contribute to substantial excess pollution, arguable at best, that harms public health and impedes efforts by the EPA, tribes, states, and local agencies to plan for and attain air quality standards. You don't see them knocking down the door of nuclear power or China in their viral, world-killing, spreading, disease-making bullshit, but they're going to go after a car. This world is crazy and upside down and inside out with priorities hanging on the back door. They have no idea what the hell they're talking about. In any case, this NCI will focus on stopping the manufacture, sale, and installation of defeat devices on vehicles and engines used on public roads as well as non-road vehicle engines. They are coming after you for modding your car, period. Your days of driving the car you want and modding it the way you want are numbered. They are taking your rights away to be able to enjoy something based on false interpretations and legislated bullshit. SEMA appeared to be referencing this initiative in its email Friday that warned the EPA has announced its enforcement against high-performance parts, including superchargers, tuners, exhaust system, is a top priority for 2020, which is why there's already been tuners for the Mustang removed from the markets. HP tuners have already lost an item they didn't manufacture that just carries the HP tuner software and firmware. It was removed from the market. Called the N-Gauge. It's gone. It's never coming back. It urged recipients to contact their lawmakers about the RPM Act. They need to add a sentence to the legislation of the RPM Act in order to clarify the interpreted road from Path A to Path B, meaning we can modify our vehicles on the street to go to a road course. We just can't operate it on the road while it's in its illegal off-road status, which pretty much resorts to the same thing we've been doing for 20 years. If the RPM Act is amended and passed, we are good. It needs to be amended and it needs to pass, period, or we're going to lose all of our rights to race, period. All of it gone forever. Okay. The EPA initiative refers to non-road vehicles and engines, which sounds like track vehicles, but that's not actually the case under language of law, which specifically excludes vehicles used for just competition. We already know this. Most people don't. U.S. code defines non-road vehicles as a vehicle that is powered by a non-road engine that is not a motor vehicle or vehicle used solely for competition. A non-road engine refers to an internal combustion engine, included a fuel system that is not used in a motor vehicle or a vehicle used solely for competition, or that is not subject to standards. Okay? Now, what this means, I'm not going to read the title sections. Forget that right now. The problem is, just like it says here, unfortunately, you can't get from point A, a legal compliant emission standard road vehicle, to point B, a legal emissions exempt vehicle, without breaking the law. Doesn't make any sense, does it? It's a gray area. Congress exempted destination, but failed to exempt the journey. That's the problem with the RPM Act and the hole that we have in front of us. The destination is exempt. Wonderful. The journey is not. What is basically happening is the government says you can drive a mile down the road to get to the coffee shop. Coffee shop, Dunkin' Donuts, is legal for you to go there. You can go there. But there's cops on the highway speed trapping you and pulling everybody over. You're not going to get to the Dunkin' Donuts because the EPA won't let you get there. They are intervening with your destination. The RPM Act needs to be amended to allow you to get to the Dunkin' Donuts that the government said that you could go to. That is a problem here. They are playing a word game, a legislation game, an amendment game. They're changing legislation. They're playing the gray area and loopholes with their foot in their mouth. And it's going to bite us in the ass if we don't act fast. Now, this is just crazy. This clearly states that you can't change the design of a motor vehicle, and anybody who manufactures or sells or offers to sell, blah, 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 can't do the same thing. RPM Act right here, it wants to tack on a sentence to the Section 203A of the Clean Air Act. This is very important, people. No action with respect to any device or element of design referred to in paragraph 3 shall be treated as a prohibited act under the paragraph in the action is for the purpose of modifying a motor vehicle into a vehicle that is not legal for operation on the street or highway and is to be used solely for competition. That right there is the most important thing I've said in this entire video. That needs to get added to the RPM Act. And if it does, that means you can remove your catalytic converter like you've been doing and tune your vehicle and go to the drag strip. Without that sentence and without that amendment, you cannot do that. And now they are taking action. You never could do that. They just have not taken action against you. And now the EPA has declared war on all of us, the industry, the professionals, and everyone involved is now a victim of an onslaughted war that the EPA has now waged against us. And this amendment needs to be implemented in the RPM Act immediately before they destroy everything. Now, I just wanted to make sure that we understood this. I don't even want to get into the rest of this absolute nonsense. It's all nonsense. Not all of it, but most of it. I'm going to come back now. It's absolutely critical that this gets amended. The last 10 years, you thought you were legally modifying your car? You weren't. It was illegal. Uncle Sam just wasn't doing shit about it. They were sitting back and laughing while you spent all your money and all your time on a passion that you thoroughly enjoy, like myself. And they looked at their watch and said, you know what? That's it. We're cracking down now. Why? Because they're not selling enough electric vehicles. God, we could be here all day with theories. It just doesn't matter what the theory is. They have declared war on us. All out war on a 70, 80-year heritage of Sunday racing. Let me tell you what Sunday racing is, okay? Because I'm getting heated here. Not at you guys, at this whole subject. It just pisses me off just thinking about it. So let me explain to you exactly what's going on. All right. If you ever remember Sunday racing, drag strips are notorious for Sundays. Why are they notorious for Sundays? Because they used to take cars out in the 50s and 60s, race them at the drag strip and road courses. People would go out there and say, wow, this car is amazing. And the dealership would advertise it, say, go to your dealership in the morning. We're selling this new car there Monday morning. America, in its automotive love, was founded on racing on Sundays, going out on Monday, and buying the dream car that you saw at the drag strip on Sunday. That's why Sundays have always been America's drag days. This is a pastime that goes back to the 30s and 40s, especially the 50s and 60s. And it's being destroyed by bureaucrats, bigots, constituents, conglomerates, money, secret money, all these agencies, governments, the EPA, which has only been a thing since 1970 because of Richard Nixon, which we're not going to get into that travesty and complete debacle what happened there, because that was just a complete nut job, type of deal. I'm not going to get into any of that. It's all nonsense. But it lands us in a position to where they're waging war on us now. Did you know they could seize your car over it? Did you know that? They can. They can. Look into your rights. They could seize your car if you don't have a cat on it. And they can crush that son of a bitch if there isn't a catalytic converter on it. They can seize your car and crush it. And you're responsible to pay the debt for that car, even though it's been crushed. Oh my God. This is unbelievable. You guys need to be very careful with modifying your vehicles currently, as they could take it and they could crush it. They could confiscate your car and hit you for federal fines. They can do all kinds of stuff. We pretty much don't have any rights whatsoever. And I think it's absolute bullshit. I'm calling them out on it. I don't give a shit if they like it. I don't care. I think it's BS. I think they got their foot in their mouth. I think they're pulling a power trip here. They're going to put a lot of people out of business. A lot. They're going to screw the economy up even more than it already is after COVID-19. And if they intended to defund all of this racing, could they not have waited a couple more years? The economy is already in the tank right now. We just went from the strongest economy we've had in 30 years. And then the pandemic hit us. Now we got Biden in office and all this legislation that's going to be passing and all this crazy ass shit the EPA is trying to pull. Are they trying to flatline the American economy? Because if that's what they're trying to do, bravo, you fucking morons, because that's exactly what you're going to do. You're going to put about 50 million people out of work. Like as if they already didn't have big enough problems as it is. You got the middle class people that are trying to work, survive, and have passions. I don't need to hear the EPA shit about people taking a catalytic converter off a 2020 Mustang or Hellcat is creating cancer. No, the fucking tobacco that you're forcing down our throats every single day of the year, that shit gave us cancer, okay? The cigarette ads they ran in the 70s, these big-ass bulletin boards in the 60s that used to say smoke up, that gave us cancer. The nuclear power plants that they fucking lie about that are underground, that gave us cancer. The chemicals you put in our foods, you sorry sons of bitches, that gives us cancer. That's what gives us cancer. These chemicals, these viruses that China create that they lie and cover up, that's what gives us cancer and kills us. Not a fucking car without a catalytic converter. No. So it's bullshit. They can lie through their teeth because that's what they're doing. They're trying to tell you that genetically modified food, nuclear power plants, viruses, chemical and biological warfare, and the list goes on and on and on, is not detrimental to our health, but a fucking car without a catalytic converter is? Get the fuck out of here with that shit, EPA. I'm sorry to swear, but they need to pull their head out of their ass. And anybody who believes in anything they say, I'm really sorry that you feel that way, but being lied to, and trust me when I tell you, I'm speaking to you from the heart as someone who's been racing for 25 years. Trust me. You're being lied to if you believe anything. This administration, the Clean Air Act, or the EPA tell you batteries in these electric cars are far more detrimental to our environment than gasoline at today's level. Gasoline 40 years ago, very pollutant. The cars were bad. These batteries will eat a hole. 100,000 cars in a junkyard with electric lithium-ion batteries in them would eat a hole in the ground about 3 miles wide and 2 miles deep. It would rot the soil away. You wouldn't be able to grow anything there for about 1,000 years, maybe even more. It's like a nuclear bomb going off just in small increments. Do they tell you that? Nope, they don't, because it's all about control. I don't know if you guys agree with me on this 30-minute rant, but I really wanted to make it clear on how I felt. And, you know, I'm pretty savage when it comes to speaking my mind. I don't have a filter. And I don't want to offend anyone or piss anybody off or upset them. But at the same time, I feel like a lot of YouTubers are afraid of this topic, and I'm not. And if they aren't afraid, they're avoiding it like a disease. And I won't. Just won't do it. I don't care. They're trying to ban our cars. They're trying to take our rights away from us. They're trying to stop us from being able to race. Look for the RPM Act. Look for a way to get it to your legislation office in your state. Let's get it passed into federal law, and let's amend the Legislation Clean Air Act of 203, Section A. And let's go ahead and amend this so that we can keep doing what we're doing right now. Because there's one more thing. There's one more thing I forgot to mention. Very important. The EPA wants to pass something else that says if you intend to buy a tuner, a cat delete pipe to delete your catalytic converter, or anything that deletes emissions, you have to prove to the store that you're buying it from, not just telling them it's off-road. Because you know the way it is today. You buy a catalytic converter delete pipe, they say not for street use, for off-road use only. And you agree to it and you buy it anyway, right? You just buy it, you use it, good. The EPA wants to pass a law and amend the RPM Act that says you have to prove it's for off-road use. That means if you buy it, you got to prove your car is not street legal anymore. That $100,000 Shelby you just bought, you can never drive on the street again. Once you convert it and you provide paperwork on it to buy your catalytic converter, which whatever you're buying, you now got to prove it's not street legal. You got to spend extra money to convert your car. You can never convert it back. You're never going to be able to afford to do it. Most people cannot afford a race car. That's why they drive their race cars daily. They want to be able to race and drive it every single day. the EPA wants to segregate race cars from driving daily cars, which means you pretty much can't afford to do it anymore. Most people can't. And when I say most, I mean like probably 90 out of 100 people could never even dream of affording a race car and a daily street driver, even including myself. You think I'm going to spend $100,000 on a car just for the drag strip and never drive it on the street? Hell no. Never. Never in a million years. Never. But that's going to do it, guys. I really appreciate you stopping in this video. We'll catch you guys on the next one. I got to get out of here. Thank you so much for stopping in. Section 203, or Clean Air Act 203, Section A. Got to amend it. Find the RPM Act and sign it. Thank you so much, guys, for stopping in. We'll see you on the next upload or live stream. Got to get out of here. Peace.